This is Amber Rothermill presenting for Human Diversity in Healthcare, vulnerable group presentation on teen pregnancy. My objectives are that 1, you will understand teen pregnancy as a cyclical pattern that we are unable to pinpoint if poor conditions led to pregnancy or if pregnancy led to poor conditions. Objective 2, that solutions include adequate pregnancy prevention in addition to supporting the teen mother and child. Thirdly, not listed here, that another solution is to provide in-home RN visits in the postpartum period. Objective 3 is to recognize our local resources for young mothers and their children. Understanding the cycle. This is a multifaceted issue that marginalizes both the children and the teen mother, and often for generations at a time. Having the child as a teenager often leads to difficulty finishing school, finding employment, securing consistent childcare, and emotional neglect of the child related to both the mother's own unfinished development and the social situations. According to the National Crittenden Foundation, teen mothers were more likely to experience adverse childhood events. This is including having watched their own mother be violently abused, having an imprisoned household member, experiencing substance abuse in their home, and experiencing physiological, psychological, sexual, and emotional abuse. So these adverse childhood events play into the fact that this intergenerational cycle continues. And lastly, all of the above mentioned can trap a teen mother in a cycle of poverty that's difficult to break. It is very difficult for them to finish their education, find employment, find childcare, provide adequate health interventions for their children, and this can include well child visits, immunizations, etc. I apologize. So because teen mothers are off time in their transition to parenthood, they suffer economic and social sanctions that affect their children's development. Where does this cycle begin? In the study titled, Why Are Children Born to Teen Mothers at Risk for Adverse Outcomes in Young Childhood?, we learn it's nearly impossible to determine if social selection versus social influence is the root cause. Essentially, did becoming teen mothers lead to these outcomes, or did these outcomes precede the teen, leading her to become a mother? We cannot pinpoint where the cycle begins, just that it's likely to continue without the dual intervention of both the child and the mother. Here you can see this cycle outlined further: poverty, adverse experiences, trauma, and poor outcomes. This graphic has been provided by the National Crittenden Foundation. I mentioned that foundation embed. They're wonderful. They aim to provide care and support for the mother and the child. And they support them through childcare, education, housing stability, health care, providing a community, etc. Please see their reference link on my page if you are interested in learning more about them. So part of caring for the mother and the child comes from this idea here that we take a 2-generation approach at caring for the whole family. This graphic kind of represents what we've come to realize about teen pregnancy, that we can't treat one without the other. Programs that focus on one, such as the child but not the mother, don't stop the cycle or promote long-term well-being. So we really need dual programs such as the Crittenden Foundation to encompass all of the needs of the family. I think you saw in a previous slide that teen mothers are 66% more likely to have, their children are 66% more likely to have a child as a teenager themselves. So it really needs to be a 2-generation approach here. So for the sake of time, my slide is focused on one solution. I want to mention that the other solutions are providing follow-up in-home care from a registered nurse. In the JFE study, and this is a quote from page 394, nurse visits to the home during pregnancy and the 2 years postpartum reduced family size, welfare use, and the incidence of child abuse and neglect for 15 years after the birth of the child. So it's definitely something to look further into. The other solution is, of course, that two-generation approach, the wholesome approach of supporting the mother and child. And this is my third solution, providing long-term, low-cost, easy-to-access birth control. This also includes a conversation about how this particular vulnerable group is marginalized in society and healthcare, because for so long, these long-term birth control options were inaccessible by low-income mothers because they were so expensive. So by providing access to long-term, low-cost birth control in preliminary studies has shown to be incredibly efficient. And an example of recent social justice would include the actions to provide birth control through the Affordable Care Act. I know that this personally enabled me to receive a $900 copper IUD, which you can see there on the left, for about $70. And this notion allowed me to break my own cycle of poverty and go back to nursing school. Before this act, before the Affordable Care Act's implementation on access to birth control, I didn't have access to it. And that was because of my low income status and my lack of health insurance. So here are 3 long-term birth control options. I mentioned the preliminary studies. So from 2009 to 2015, Colorado piloted a study where they provided long-term birth control options for low-income mothers. The result was an astounding 40% decline in teen births and a 42% decline in abortions. I have a quote here. If we want to reduce poverty, one of the simplest, fastest, and cheapest things we could do would be to make sure that as few people as possible become parents before they actually want to. In terms of breaking the teen pregnancy cycle, prevention to me seems like the best way to start. I have 3 local community resources here for you. The first is Healthy Beginnings Plus. One of the things I really love about that program is they do provide in-home RN visits to first-time moms. I think statistically that's an avenue we really need to explore more in our solutions. So I appreciate that they offer that. They also provide prenatal care, education, delivery of the baby, follow-up care, postpartum birth control. They connect the mother with social services. Planned Parenthood, everybody knows Planned Parenthood, but they're located in the city, so mothers without transportation can walk there. They provide language services for those who don't speak English well or at all, and then they provide low-cost birth control options as well as pregnancy counseling. And last, a local resource is A Woman's Concern. It's also in the city where it had been. I think their satellite office is still in the city, but they provide a really a neutral meeting place for women who find themselves pregnant and act as a resource center. And they're really an active part of our community here. So thank you so much for watching my brief presentation. I hope that it was informative. As you have hopefully seen, teen pregnancy is a cyclical problem that extends beyond a simple fix. A multifaceted approach at both helping the teen mother and the child must be implemented. Reducing teen pregnancies by offering long-term birth control is statistically one of the most feasible places to start at addressing this issue. Additionally, offering home health RN visits to the newly postpartum teen mother can improve maternal offspring outcomes. And lastly, programs that allow young mothers to finish high school, earn a college degree, are fundamental at improving the changes and breaking the poverty part of the cycle. Then there's my references. Okay, bear with me as I stop this, but thank you guys for watching.